Hello and welcome to the Tumble Tankard Tavern. I am Jim, aka Arjun, and we're here for DM&D. It's been a little time here. We've had various travel issues and sickness and stuff like that, and so we're back. Um, and we've got, as always, we have our favorite Nans here, and we are ready to talk about something a little bit different this time around. Um, we're going to get back into a little more world building aspect here, but we're talking about species or races, depending on how what game system you're in, um, and where which you're in, which you're there for. But the one thing is that really sets worlds apart from each other are the types of characters you can play, the types of species and races you can play, and the types of monsters you run into. And so it's really intrinsically tied to world building because if you don't have the same things available, the same races and species available to you, it's going to change the characters you can make and who you're going to interact with in the world. So, um, I will say, you're going to hear me use races and species a lot because it depends on the game system you're in as to as to what they use there. And D&D has now shifted from races to species. There's a whole sociological reason for that. Race is a social construct, and species is more genetically driven and whatever. I don't want to get into that whole part there. We're not going to get into that here, but um, get right down to it. Nans,
That
top of your head right now, what's your favorite race or species to play?
Dragonborn.
There you go.
I
Okay.
mean, there's never any other. It's always going to be Dragonborn. It was my first when I was looking through the D&D book, and it was me trying to figure out what my first character was going to be. My first character was a Dragonborn. Now, it wasn't a blue Dragonborn, as we have all come to
Sure.
know me as to being, but it was definitely a Dragonborn, and I loved reading that Dragonborn had issues with certain races, right? Like they didn't get along
Sure.
with these specific races, but they do absolutely get along with these races. And I didn't even realize that was an issue. I thought I could play my character any way I wanted to. And so I did. My Dragonborn had no problems with any species and or race. It was she was just her. As long as you didn't harm her or her friends, you were good company. That's all she cared about.
Yep.
DM
And you're touching. Yeah. Go
DM
ahead.
often made me balance my well, that was back when we were actually using the um the neutral, the good, the neutral good, the
Oh,
lawful evil.
alignment. Yep.
Yes. So I was often going from lawful good to neutral to not lawful good. It all depended on what we were doing. I never understood the point of it until we got to the very end when my character was at lawful neutral and I understood what I was supposed to be doing at that point.
Gotcha. Yep. So you're touching on a couple of very important aspects right there. Is the fact that the what the world says Dragonborn are like, and what you as a character say your Dragonborn is like, can be at odds. I mean, not everyone's the same, and so it might be more of a like this race of Dragonborns that lives in this part of the world has conflict with the races and species that live around them, and they don't get along. But that's more of a world building aspect there. It's not just like there's nothing, some physical thing of I'm a Dragonborn, so I hate these things. That's not a species thing. That's a sociology thing like that in your world. It's part of your world building. So if you're in a Dragonborn that's not in that, it has the same thoughts and feelings about other things there. There's no reason you have to. It's just a typical thing. So, um, so we'll get more into that a little bit there. I various times in my life I've flip flopped there. I've been a big fan of playing dwarves. I haven't done it in a while. I do like elves. I like halflings. I have played almost every one of the classic D&D races. I have never played a tiefling.
Oh, they're fun.
Um, Oh, I realize this. It's just that it's one of those things of it's more of a it's a kind of a newer race to D&D, and, it's in a situation where I'm usually playing with someone else who's also playing a tiefling, so I try not to play the same thing everyone else is playing. Um, so, nothing against them, I just never created one. I played one ASMR, I played a Goliath, I played gnomes, halflings, all kinds of things, so, a lot over the years. Um I've also played a lot of humans, and I know that humans can be a polarizing thing for some players, especially. I play a human in real life. I don't want to play one in a game. Well, I'm also not a wizard in my real life, and so I like I can. So that whole argument to me kind of falls flat when you look at a character like, yeah, I'm also not throwing spells in my real life, but here I am in my game playing a guy casting spells. Um, so, but again, that kind of comes around to what you want to do with your character and what's available in the world. Um,
You know what I
so,
did like? Sorry to interrupt you, Jim.
no, jump, yeah, go for it.
What I did like was that the book gave me some aspects of like, hey, you don't like halflings. Okay, that also gives room for character growth and development throughout the game. So
Yeah,
it wasn't like, so you hate halflings. Okay, why do you hate halflings? It was just how my I've always grown up, right? Real life stuff,
sure,
right? But as you play the game, you're going to start realizing the DM's throwing more and more of those type of creatures at you. You're going to have to deal with them. And you either
right,
deal with them in a negative way or in a positive way. And that also comes from the role play aspect of the people around you at the table. Because
yeah,
not all races hate halflings.
right, yeah. Well, and what's interesting about that is when you talk about that in a rule book, that's not a rule. That's you're talking about a sociology experiment here or a psychology thing here. That's not my in my world. Dragonborn are not that. They don't have that, and so we run into problems of like, well, it says in the book that this way. There's nothing that says that that a dragonborn has to be this, or an elf has to be this, or a dwarf has to be that. The only thing that matters in the rule books for me is what physical traits or what things are available and what suggestions you might have based on a typical member of that species. And we've touched on this in the past, actually. So we've talked about world building in the past and talking about species. So we're kind of rehashing a little bit of content here, but I wanted to jump a little bit further into some interesting ways of seeing how that affects things. Classic D&D, original good old AD&D here, anything else. Your races were human, elf, dwarf, gnome, halfling, half elf, and half orc. That was it. All you could choose from in the main book. But that brings up a very important thing here. Those last two races or species, half orc and half elf. That means that those species can interbreed. It also never really specifically half human, half elf, half human, half orc. So I'm always kind of like, well, what about a half dwarf, half elf? Does that exist? Well, if you're in a certain setting, it does. Um, so, but that's again, now you're talking about a difference between one setting and another, one campaign world and another, where suddenly, yes, these two species can interbreed and have children, and they're going to have characteristics maybe different from the others, either parent or have a little mishmash of both, depending on what's there. So that gets into some things like right there. The rule book tells you that humans and orcs can have kids. Humans and elves can have kids. Nobody else is mentioned as a possibility, but now you can specify that, yeah, I can allow that. Maybe dwarves and halflings can have kids. Maybe that's where stout halflings come from. Tall fellows, halflings and elves, or halflings and humans having kids. Those are the tall fellows. So you start getting those variations there. Um, and so that's where it can kind of expand out into your world where, yes, you have variations based on who your parents are, who's in your ancestry, and that can have a very interesting way of how that plays out in your world. Um, what are some of the weirder races or takes on races or species that you've seen or have
So
used yourself?
I have played Goobox originally was an ooze, and she was the weirdest creature I've ever played. She's from the Outer Plains, and it in the world setting that I was in, it just didn't make sense. So I did end up changing her to a furbog, but an ooze that doesn't have a shape. You can literally be whatever
Mhm.
shape you want to be. There is no defining features to your shape either. It kind of just looks like you're a giant bubble. And I immediately went to, "Oh, I'm a giant bubble. This is SpongeBob." I don't like SpongeBob. I'm not I'm
Sure,
not I'm not doing the whole SpongeBob thing. And
sure, sure.
was so thankful that the DM was like, "Yeah, you can change your character." Because
Yeah,
it one, it didn't fit. Two, it just it's not me. I am
yeah.
I'm very like I have to be able to see what I look like to be able to envision what I look like in my head. So trying to find something that worked with that I swear the ooze have to be the hardest, weirdest characters that I have
Oh, I'm
ever
sure.
tried to pull out.
Yep. Um, and the interesting thing there is that too that is that you have to play this character,
Mhm,
and some people do have a hard time playing non-human characters because, like, how do you conceive of being an elf who has Fey heritage or something like that? It's like
mhm,
you can get into that, but some people have it's more challenging for some than others. Another big problem people run into is I want to play this race. Well, why? Because they get these bonuses.
mm,
Okay,
mhm,
what is your who
mhm,
is your character? Where are they from? Why? Like
mhm,
when you start like I want this race because of these bonuses. Throw that out the door, or you know what, work with them and say, okay, well that's cool. Here's how those things work in my world. These characters are from this part of the world. They tend to do this kind of thing here. Does that sound right to you? Yeah, that works for me. So you can kind of work that into a background. But a lot of players are coming from the aspect of I want to play this because they're cool. I want to play this because they have these really awesome bonuses that give me it make me really powerful at doing this thing that I want to do. So it does kind of come down to how that fits and working back and forth with your players on making something they're going to enjoy, something they're going to like really like be able to dig into in terms of like making a character. And then sometimes the players come to you and say, "I have this really cool idea. I want to play this like half dwarf, half tiefling, or half. I want to play a dwarf tiefling." Who's got a parent who's an elemental? Like, whoa, 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 whoa.
that's a
Okay,
lot.
first of all, that's kind of crazy. But at the same time, it's like, well, how did that happen? Well, my it was a wizard that kind of mushed my parent and this elemental and infused this thing here and then created me. Wow, now you're talking about something really weird. But again, now it's something that's custom. You're adding something to your world of this is a possibility.
Mhm,
And it's kind of fun that way, where suddenly this is something that you hadn't considered before, or they say, "Hey, I want to play a Loxodon." I don't have any Loxodons in my world. Well, where would they be from? Well, maybe these Loxodons are from this part of the world. I haven't really detailed out yet. And well, how did you get from there to here? Why are you here compared to where you would be from?
mhm.
And so now there's a backstory element coming in from a race or species choice. Um, so it could be a lot of fun in terms of how you expand your world building based on the choices the players make.
I
There's
do
also the
appreciate
yeah,
I do appreciate players that like have a character concept in play before they start like, "Hey, can I sit at your table? I have this concept in mind and here I've already built it out to level 1," which is where most of us start, right?
sure,
And then you look at it and then you start asking those hard questions like, well, how did they get to my world? How did this exactly happen? Why did you choose the path of a beastmaster instead of just an arcane ranger? Like you start asking those backstories and there are none. They chose it literally to mid-max their character. And
yeah,
then and then it for me it almost feels like I'm picking apart their character going, it's not going to work with what you want to do inside the world because the world doesn't match this character. We'd have to draw back to the original stat and go through it one by one together, which I don't mind doing. As a DM, I love sitting
sure.
with you doing character creation, right? It also, if
Mhm.
you can do the one on ones with them on character creation at the beginning, you can give them the expectations of what you expect.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
shots, one shots, those are the difference for me. I don't care
yeah,
what you build. I don't care if you min max it. I don't care if you low max it. I don't care if you're just in it to have fun and your character literally can do Jack Jubilee, right? Those are the fun times. Those one shots are just there to be fun in the first place.
Yeah.
But when you're building for a campaign, you really should think about a backstory of your character, how they got to where they were. Not necessarily into my world because you don't know it yet, but how did they get to where they are now? It,
Well, that's where that session zero really is important. Where say, I had this idea, I want to bring in a character like this. If they say, "Here, it's done," no, it's not. You put some numbers on a piece of paper. You've made a couple selections of there here. Like we can work with this, but you're not done. We got to fit this into the world, and sometimes it will work, and sometimes you get to kind of massage it in, or say, "Hey, that's really not going to work." Like I've already established that this is not a thing here. So part of that is if you can prep your players with, hey, these are the things you can choose from. And anything deviating from this, we're going to have to really talk about, and it might not work. So don't get so stuck with this idea that nothing else is a possibility. I, the idea of bringing in a Loxodon, I didn't put any Loxodons in my world. Why would I? Why would I do that? I don't need that. Like, well, he's big and he's strong. Then be a Goliath. They're already here. Be this race, or just be something who's a big tough human person or whatever else that. Like, there's no reason. Like, if you're only going at it because there's this like benefit I get because I chose this race or this species, and you're not really working with the world and really working with the other players. Another big issue you run into that is if you have something like, well, yeah, those exist, but they're hunted and hated by everyone and they're so stuck with it. Well, now I mean, having to either throw that out of my entire world, or you're going to be playing something that's going to be very difficult, and you're going to have very limited choices, and you have a lot of difficulty that can be very unfun. I mean, it did happen in a campaign where I was in, where a person was like, "Hey, dark elves are hated by everyone," and it was like you can still play them if you want. And then when they did, and suddenly it was like, oh, they can't get into the city because they
mm,
basically have to hide their features. Well, they're going to like they're pulling back everyone's hoods or whatever else is that, or they're trying to sneak their way in. And the second they got spotted, they got attacked. I was like, oh my god, this is just not going to work. I mean, we can't do anything with two of our party members because they're dark elves.
right.
Ah, so that's something again, working that into a combination of your world building and your players, how they fit in that, and you say, hey, that's not available because of this reason. And hopefully your players will accept that and choose something different without getting so married to a character concept that they can't change it. But the idea that being open to that, especially when you're first building a campaign world, um, and there's some things you can do that people, it may never matter to anyone. I'll, for example, the Dragonborn, the Dragonkin of Avarice,
Hmm.
uh, it was a 1,200 years previous when they first became a thing, but they're established now, and it's been centuries they've been established, and that history is interesting, but doesn't affect the current players. But it's something that's there. When I tell you that a black and red dragonborn do not exist in my world, there's a reason for that. And so, why do I want to play a black dragonborn? Well, they don't exist. Well, I
Hmm.
want to play one. Why? I like acid. Okay,
There's other
then be a,
colors that also do
then
acid.
be copper. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So, but no, I want to. I have this. I have a character image I picked up off the internet. I want to play this guy right here. Like, let's massage this a little bit here.
I
But
do remember
so
that
that's the kind of thing.
conversation where you said,
Oh
when
yeah.
I said I want to be a dragonborn, and you were like, "What
Mhm.
color?" And I was like, "Blue."
Yep.
Is there any? Wait, you don't know me.
Okay.
Yeah, blue.
Yeah.
And then then we
Well.
worked it out, and you were like, "Well,
Yeah.
thankfully you didn't want to be a goblin, um, because
Yeah.
goblins we were not playable races in your campaign because we made them the most
Yeah.
hated things in the world."
Until they weren't, and that was a fun thing to try to
Until
work into there,
they
because
were.
and so yeah. I mean, yeah, part of me were like, down here, you love your orc self and show everyone your face. I mean, and that's the thing is that what happens is that people get so stuck with the idea of what a race is in the campaign they played in previously
Hmm.
that when you tell them something is different in this world, they sometimes can't get that through their heads. Goblins are monsters. They're vicious, horrible things that kill everything they see. No, they're not. They're people. They have cities. They have cars. They have guns. They have a whole society that, yes, the ones you ran into were trying to kill you, but for a very specific reason. They were sent to kill people and take things back that were stolen from their homeland. So, again, that's where it's like when the motivation for doing things is flawed because of you're looking at it from what a rule book says
Hmm.
or what somebody did in a different campaign.
Yep.
It takes some time to get over that preconceived notion, which is not actually that bad of an idea. um Goblins are always bad. No, they're
They're
not.
not. They're not.
Zobix the bear was awesome. I love my little goblin druid.
Uh,
um
so the other thing too is it's really weird because look at kobolds. Depending on which
yeah.
lore you take, they look like
Hmm.
dragonkin or they look like dogs,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So like
Like,
which
are
one?
they little lizard folk? Are they little gnolls? I mean, depending on which artwork you're looking at. Yeah,
Right? And the backstories for both of those races are completely different. It's the same
yeah.
species, but they've broken it up into two different races. So like you have the
Hmm.
lizard folk looking ones and the dog looking ones, and then you get to play with, in your story, in your campaign, which one it is, because one of them you kill mercilessly, and the other one you befriend.
So here we are, the goblins here. Yeah, we have Moose, Snickersnack, and Zabnock. Yeah, it's funny that is how those races and how those species fit into your game is very different. Goblins and Avarice have a long history. Yes, they've been very adversarial, but they're not dumb, vicious monsters. Um, wow, that's interesting, Dow. Orcs can be violent. Um, uh, that
What was that? We lost your mic there, Jim. You'll get it.
how about now?
There
Is
we
it
go.
back?
You're back.
Okay, wow. It crackled and popped a little bit there and then stopped working. So hopefully it doesn't do that again. Um, New headphones. Sorry, folks. It's always been tricky to deal with new technology. Um, so it does come down to really like how do these species fit into your world, and um, sometimes they it doesn't quite mesh, or you want something different there. The thing about goblins in my world is that it's funny because goblins literally. So, yeah, sorry there. Um, Although that's the whole thing is you met a couple cool goblins that helped you out, but then there were some bad goblins that didn't do so much. That weren't so great there. Kind of like everybody out there. Some are bad, some are good. That you ran into some bad ones initially. I get that.
Hmm.
Um, but the funny thing is, if you go on to the south east of the continent you were on there, way down the south there, there's goblins that live in the jungle that are basically druids. They are not monsters. They don't attack people. They just live in the jungles and have their little, somewhat primitive looking places. But they've got these whole thing of like animals and magic that they do, and they're very very different. And so the whole concept that if you go into a game thinking, well, this is the way they are, you may need to open up your mind and say, well, maybe not. Um, Kobolds were not monsters. They were just the natives that lived in the mountains where the dragonkin came and settled, and they welcomed their big cousins to the places to settle where they lived normally. Goblins were native that did kind of the opposite. They did like, oh, you're coming to invade our lands? No, you're not. You're ours now. And so that's what happened to the orcs. And then orcs and goblins hooking up, that's where hobgoblins came from. And orcs and hill giants hooking up, that's where ogres came from. So literally, it's those things in Avarice that again, it's all in the past, but it leads to what you have now. The idea that you only ever met one Aarakocra because they live way up in the mountains, like 5 miles up, and traveling down to the lowlands is uncomfortable and nasty for them. So they don't normally find them down on the lower elevations. Um, can coexist. Never interacted with any because they live mostly in a different part of the world. Um, so the idea that kind of makes a world alive. It isn't like everybody sees everything all the time. Where you go depends who you see depends on where you go and who you interact with. And so when you see someone from that's not normal, that's not usually here, it makes a new interaction that's very kind of unique from those other ones you've had in maybe previous games. Um, so again, species is such an integral part of world building and how you interact with the world, both as a character and you the people they run into. And that plays over into other systems as well, not just D&D. The idea of a sci-fi setting, those aliens you run into. What is Star Wars without all the aliens that are there? And they're not all the same. They aren't all like bad or good. They might tend toward more things, or depending on where they live and being conquered by the Empire, they're not part of the Empire, so they're usually bad guys. Doesn't mean they always are. So the idea that concept of species and race is true of any system you run into. And again, you can't just automatically assume something a certain way because it's not typical. Um, like playing in a game where someone's playing a human character who hates everything that isn't human is going to have a hard time in some settings. Yes, two people who are not normal right now. Don't get, yeah, sure, sure.
I think she's talking about
Uh,
herself and her reflection.
there you go. That's it. Um, so again, when you talk about these things, and then understand when you like, I'll say this: Dragonborn can be different based on where you are. The concept of Dragonborn is very interesting when you go to places like the Wandering Inn, where you have the drakes, and then old blood drakes that are different from newer drakes. They don't all breathe fire or have breath weapons. They don't all. Some have wings. Some are stronger. Some are tougher. They're very different from the lizard folk. Very different. And how different depends on which setting you're in. Um, so, looking at the lizard folk of Avarice compared to the dragonkin of Avarice, they have some similarities, but they're very different in both their society, their physiology, and what they do. They tend to be more aquatic and live on the oceans. Good try there, Nance. Um, so that again, that allows you to make something of your world that's unique to your world that isn't the same as everywhere else. But if you're cool with the way things normally are, you've got settings like Greyhawk or Faerun, the Forgotten Realms, where the standard races are what you expect to be. And you aren't going to see goblins running around in Greyhawk that aren't evil because they're monstrously awful and it's more of a physiological. They're psychotic carnivores. like and that's the typical thing you see. They raid places, they eat everything they can get a hold of, but that's how Greyhawk has created goblins. Orcs are very warlike and nasty and tend to be somewhat primitive because they don't care about technology or gaining. They don't have wizards. They may have shaman type things, but again, that's a society thing that the Greyhawk has created. That's kind of become the standard everywhere you go. It's kind of the default setting, but you don't have to use the default setting if it's your world. So, what are some other weird races you ran? You had an ooze character there. Have you ever created a weird race or had a setting where there's bizarre races?
I had a setting where there were bizarre races. I haven't played in it yet. I've built it. Um, the the crux of it is I'm pulling it from Humblewood, right?
Oh,
So on
nice. Yes.
Humblewood, which I've just started reading through, it's a great story. I love it.
Yep.
They have
Yay,
like
Humblewood.
they have those little tiny creatures like hedgehogs and
Yep.
raven
And your
folk,
little
right?
owl. Yep.
Right? And an actual cockatrice. So my brain went, well, if I can have a cockatrice, why can't I have an alligator? That's not an
Sure.
actual playable race yet, but it's a token, I can build
Right.
from a token into. So I have started building some races that would fit into the Humblewood aspect that I'm building out
Mhm.
because it only goes to level 10. And then after
Sure.
that, you're supposed to go branch out into whatever real world that you would have, because Humble World is its own little world inside of a world, right? So
Yeah.
after level 10, you're supposed to branch out and go into the big world. I talked to a couple people and they're like, why can't we just keep playing in Humblewood? Well, you
Sure.
can. I'd have to figure it out. All right, let's go play with some different type of races that I would like to see within inside of an imaginary Humblewood. Crocodiles being
Right.
one thing. Loxodon are
Yeah.
obviously already done, so you could be your Loxodon. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, rat badgers, hamsters, snails. Yeah, Pathfinder
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
great starting point on being able to play a bunch of different weird little races. Um, so an alligator, I think, is the one right lately that I've been building that
Mm.
looking at. Like the players in my other game right now are getting ready to play in the Peter Pan aspect, and the
Mhm.
crocodile, they ate the clock. Like, why could not that not be a playable person,
Sure. Yeah.
right?
Well, and the idea that again, it's like the Humblewood setting is a very a temperate forest type of setting.
Yep.
Well, now if you add in more of a swampy area or a bayou type setting,
Hmm.
or expand the territory out into another setting, there now you're talking about different races, different animals,
Yep.
different species that would be more in tune with that. So perfect. Yeah, it's a good example of yeah how your environment will drive the characters you have in there.
Not really.
Spoilers.
Not really.
Nah,
No, it's
nah.
just character development. I'm also looking at building a Firefly based off of pixies,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because fireflies
Yeah.
are awesome.
Fae
Who
folk.
doesn't want to be a
Yeah.
firefly,
Yeah. Fae folk are great. And the idea of how, and what's interesting is how do you play a Fae folk when they're this big?
right?
And like, and you have things that are as big as us or much bigger. So how does that work? Because you just get stepped on or squished or not even noticed, or the weapons you can carry don't fit, don't do anything because like they might be sharp, they might stick someone and cause a little bit of damage, but it's not going to be the same as getting hit with a two-handed sword held by a loxodon
Right.
and a fairy with a little dagger that's this long.
It goes between
Um,
the fingernail and the skin. That's where it goes.
yeah, it's like, ow, it's a splinter. Get out of here with that thing.
Right.
So how do you balance that type of thing there? That gets a very challenging aspect of having races that are very different from each other. Um, and so it comes down to maybe a pixie warrior doesn't work again unless they're fighting other pixies. Um, uh, um, it's but again, but a pixie mage is able to throw out a fireball, or be able to or do other magics, or be invisible and sneaky and be a rogue type thing. Works really well for that character. So it kind of balance. So your choice of species doesn't figure into the types of characters you can play. Um, there's What's interesting is that concept of play whatever you want is something that had to develop. Original D&D had this my age. um that played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when it back in the day. You One of the first thing you house rule is throwing that table out because oh look, if you're playing a dwarf, the highest dex you can have is 16. You can never have a higher than that. So good luck being a decent rogue. Oh, not only that, the highest level rogue you can be is level 9, as opposed to the human that can be level 20, or the halfling that can be level 16. Like they would cap levels and cap stats based on there, and it just made it not fun. Because what do you do now? Well, now you had to multi-class because the dwarf that got to max level fighter needed to become something, so they start taking levels in cleric or something. Otherwise, they just stop advancing,
That
and
sounds
that's just not.
so frustrating.
It is. It was terrible. And so unless you were just and the thing was you didn't really get huge benefits for being these other races. It was just more of a thing of like, hey, we want to make everybody humans. If you want to play something different, you can, but you're not going to be as good as humans. Ugh. like like
Humanists.
yeah. It really was. I mean, and they try to justify it like, well, elves are so long lived, the experience doesn't mean as much to them, so they can't level to the extent that humans can. I'm like, get out of here with that mess. You just want to make everybody human. Um,
I live that every day, thanks. I'm good.
yeah, and so yeah, you do have that aspect now of like, yeah, I don't want to be a human. I want to be something different. Um, grab
Sure.
so a turtle, grab the sides of my shell, make meaty hands, and sprint forward. Or you're a super dexterous ninja type turtle, and suddenly now you're running around with a mentor who's a talking rat, and
Mhm, mhm. I've had,
yeah,
a player who came to me with the concept of playing as a minotaur,
yeah, oh
and
yeah,
I said, "Well, that sounds doable. Do you have a
hmm
stat block for it built out? Like, where did you get it from? Because now I have to go look at the credentials and make sure that it's a viable, playable race, not just in my world, but like
sure,
the stat blocks make sense. Because if you're looking at it and you're telling me that a Minotaur has the ability, which it should have, to run at speed and knock people over, your strength
mhm,
scores should be fairly high on the priority list, right?
sure,
This
yeah,
guy tried bringing me a Dex on Minotaur, and I went, no. No,
I
like, I understand the concept of where he was coming from because, what class is it? You can choose between it comes from your dex modifier or your oh, monk. It could come from your
monks, yeah,
strength
yeah, a
modifier or your
minotaur
dex.
monk.
Right. Like that I was he was trying to float that idea through. And I'm like, listen, a minotaur was built to do two things: trample you and stomp you in the face. That were their two
No,
goals.
I'm gonna say being able to do a flurry of blows with your horns would be pretty damn cool. I gotta say, and strength-based monks, I've always wanted to make a strength-based monk. I wanted a barbarian monk. It'd be a blast to play, but there are rule things you may need to tweak about that. There, for me, I would just go, hey, you want to play a minotaur? Okay, take the stats of a Goliath and just make him give him horns and fur. Done.
And
Like the
well,
idea that
he wanted the
yeah.
ability to charge as a right off
Sure. Yeah.
get, right? So I'm like, with the new rules where some of
Erase.
the
There's a feat. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right, they get them. So like, but I'm still brand new DM, and like
Yeah.
this is back before the new edition had even thought of becoming a thing.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not even going to entertain the idea at this point. I like the
Sure.
idea. I do. I really do like the idea. However, I'm still too new to verify and say that this is okay to do. Let's take a
Well.
step back and let's see. We ended up with a Goliath who wore
Sure.
Viking horns as a helmet, and
Yep.
he got the world's super glue, and they were permanently stuck to his head. So, like,
Okay. Okay. So you made a like it's your bargain basement minotaur. There you go.
right, like I gave him an option that would work, and then he ended up taking the feat
Sure.
charger at the appropriate levels, and he took the other feats
Yeah.
that made sense. But it was like, as a new DM, you have to understand. Yes, people come up with these really great ideas on characters and species that they want to play.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you're not comfortable with it, you have the right to say no.
Absolutely.
And no
And
but.
as a
It's like a yes and, but
yeah.
it's a no but, right?
Sure. I mean, yeah. Well, it comes down to I mean, here's the thing: is something as you like if you're doing it now, and somebody can say, "I want to play a Minotaur." Okay, yeah, use the glass stats there, and we'll give you a charge ability.
Yep,
Done. Um, like you can use your horns as a melee weapon. There you go.
right.
And so again, not a huge deal. You might say it's like D6 piercing damage or whatever like that, and it uses your strength. Um, so I mean, but it's one of the until you have that experience, until you get a chance to try that out there, it can be challenging. And so again, don't be afraid to say no, but don't be so like against it that you couldn't make it work somehow. If it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense, or if you say that no way, Minotaurs only live on this island and they're this menace that does terrible things. Like if you've
Yeah.
had that concept in your head already, it's part of established in your world, you can still say no but this could work this way instead. Um,
Also,
yeah.
don't be
So
afraid to reach out
I
to other DMs, like
yeah.
bounce the idea off of
Oh yeah.
them. And a lot of times you'll find out it's a lot easier to fix that issue where you're stuck
Uh-huh.
because you've bounced it off of them. And then you can go to the player and say, listen, I've slept on it and I've talked to a couple of DMs, and this is the thing that we've created. Um, it's
Yeah.
based off of what you've given us. It's the abilities to do X, Y, and Z. Um, if you like it, we'll run through with doing that, right?
Sure.
Everybody's happy.
Funny thing is, I did play a Minotaur character in high school.
Did you?
DM the DM went, "Hey, you can play anything in the monster manual you want, other than like it has to be like large size or smaller. You can't play a dragon." But it was like you can play, and so I went, "Okay, and you're going to be this level, and you have this much to put on to make into magic items." I made a Minotaur with
Mm.
a giant frost sword. I didn't want an axe. I was like, no, I'm going for had the great sword of frost, and horseshoes of speed.
That just sounds funny.
Because I'm like, you know what? I got big hooves for feet. I'm gonna get some horseshoes of speed, and look, I can now move super fast and hit people really, really hard. So, but it's one of the things of like in the right kind of campaign, you can kind of throw that out there. If you're given the chance of playing monsters, that could be a fun way to go there. But again, that's set up for that campaign. And then you have to basically say, what does work? Can I play a gelatinous cube? Well, yeah, but you're going to be real slow and you're really dumb. But
Real
maybe you're
dumb.
not. Maybe here's the fun part of this. A person wanted to do that. And basically he was wanted to play an ooze master character,
Hmm.
but he wanted his gelatinous cube familiar amount, whatever, to be smart. So he stuck a headband of intellect into it. Suddenly, it was smart. It couldn't talk but it was super smart.
Super
Um,
smart.
so fun. So and then what happens is he gets some sort of ability that gives him telepathy, and suddenly your gelatinous cube can talk to you. That's again, you can have some really crazy fun character types out there if you open yourself up to beyond the standard races. But don't forget, the standard races can also be a lot of fun too. So even variations of standard races there. I want to play a tiefling, but I want to play the tiefling that's half fiend, half halfling. I want a 3 foot tall tiefling. Um,
Little ankle biter.
yeah, totally. Like, and basically be an imp,
Right? Yep.
essentially.
Uh-huh.
Red skin there, but yeah. So the idea of like, no, he's, and the funny thing is there is in certain variations of systems and certain places that, um, some DMs may allow you to mix and match abilities for the different races that you're part of. You're half this, half that. Maybe you have the lucky ability of the halfling, but this ability from here. And it's one of those. It's kind of hard to do online because you have character builders and stuff that may not allow there. But if you're getting a chance to play in person, you've got physical character sheets. You can write down whatever you want to write down there, and DMs you get a lot more freedom to do things that way. So again, have your world, have your monsters, have your races. What character? Yeah, those of you listening right now, what character would you all like to play? What species are your favorites? Um, or what oddball things which you would love to see in in a game to play sometime.
Do you
Because
know what
I've seen
monster
some
I
weird
would
ones.
choose? No
What did you?
monster. My favorite monster of all time. You're gonna hate it. Is a Bodak.
Oh, shut up.
Would
Uh,
love to play as a Bodak.
but they're undead too, so it's like it's hard. I mean, but then again, yeah. I mean, it
they
doesn't mean they're
have
not
un
intelligent.
they have
Yeah,
undead playable races out there now, so like,
sure.
why not?
Revenants are a thing.
So, the thing I would love to do is like as a Bodak, get like the Cyclops eye thing going, right? You can't see my eyes until I lift the shades, and then you can see my eyes, and then you're dead, right? Because
Yeah,
like I wouldn't want to kill my
yeah.
party members.
I I kind of work with the ability of like, well, yeah, you have a straight up racial ability to just make someone save or die.
Uh-huh.
That's
Uh-huh.
a little bit too powerful for a like. I mean, kind of trivialize a lot of encounters. You like walk along and say everybody I look at just has to save or die. Um,
I mean, Paladins kind of do that when they're walking down with the "I am holier than thou, I turn undead," and you're just destroyed, right? Like, come on.
PTSD from Bodak encounter.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have PTSD. I knew what I was getting into, and I'm like,
me
I am
too.
walking straight into this. I am gonna die. Like I know what this is, but my characters know what this. I know what's coming. This is gonna hurt. And so yeah, there was a little PTSD of like oh no, oh
Yeah,
no, oh.
it's alright, you guys saved him,
So
he was fine.
yeah, and again, there are ways around it, obviously. So, but yeah, it could have been real bad if he gotten somebody else, and suddenly, yeah. So,
If it would have
um,
been one of the healers who had the ability to get you back up, like, it could have been
mhm,
real bad. Yes,
yeah,
be the people
yeah.
that,
Or
can't do that.
if I hadn't been visible when it happened, I was standing out in the open when it happened, and I fell. Like, what the heck?
Right?
If I'd have been around the corner, away from everybody, I would. They would just found my dead body.
And
Like,
would have never
what
known.
happened to Strelv? Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and
So
at that point, they wouldn't have known if Shrub was dead, just sleeping or unconscious. Like they would have to do medicine checks, and by that point, tap on the shoulder, you turn around, and you see another Bodak behind your face. Like now, there's another party member, and then they literally
um,
just disappear after that. That's their bonus action. So like
yeah.
they are pretty gnarly
Yeah.
characters.
And see, that's where like the idea of like having a player with abilities like that is really hard to deal with. And so that's one of the ones like you know what, I'm not going to allow that. You can be a ghoul or you can be maybe even a white because their abilities are annoying, but they're not like just instant death. Um, so yeah, it kind of comes down there. So um, that's going to come down to what's going to be workable in your game. And but yeah, I would say when someone comes to you, like if a player came to you and said, "I want to play a Bodak," then sure, you but you don't have your eye is gone or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you've lost your eye and like or whatever, or something is blocking that ability because I'm not dealing with you just instant killing everything just by looking at it.
Got
Um,
cataracts.
and yeah. Ah, poke. Ran into Three Stooges and got his eye poked out. I mean, um, so yeah. Again, it and don't forget too, like making variations. It can be very fun to make variations on existing races. Obviously, you have the ones that are in the books, but you can expand that into other things. The idea of having a halfling who's a tall fellow, a stout, whatever else that, or a half. Basically a halfling Asimar or something like that, or a gnomish. Uh, what happens when a gnome and a Goliath have a kid? I don't know.
You have a
Um,
person?
yeah, I mean, if a Chihuahua and a Rottweiler can have puppies, a Goliath and a gnome could have kids potentially with the right arrangement. Um, but yeah, a pint-sized, rocky-skinned, um, like gnoming, it'd be kind of interesting thing to go with there. But again, it's what's going to be fun, what's going to be creative, what's going to be interesting, maybe even unique to your world. I mean, unique to their. How would someone react to someone who looks like that, or what the heck are you? Where did you come from? What is this? Or is it a common thing that happened generations ago, and there's a whole village of them now? Um, that's really how. The else in Avarice I didn't know is that gnomes were not normally existing. Gnomes came from halflings. Halflings and elves made forest gnomes, and halflings and dwarves made rock gnomes. It's kind of how things worked. Like I mentioned, hobgoblins came from orcs and goblins. So the idea of having different origins for these species is a big part of your world building as well. It can change kind of where they came from or what they're like. Um, the idea that bugbears were just offshoots of furbolg in my world, and they were both offshoots of forest giants, which you never saw because you never spent much time in that part of the world. Um, so it is a fun little thing of like what happens like when you change the origin of a race or change the origin of these things that people can run into and see. it makes it unique, but also removes some of the like, oh, that's a goblin, it must be this. Maybe not. Maybe not in this world. So it's kind of fun that way. Um, the idea too, and this kind of one of the last things I'll talk about here is in a game coming up there, we're about to play a Daggerheart game. First time I played Daggerheart, but it's going to be very much an isekai situation. We are all characters from different worlds who all walked through a door and ended up in this world. We didn't all walk through the same door. We all just walked through a door. And so you can basically pick any race from any world and make it into a character. Um, and what does that mean and how does it look? It's going to be really interesting to see what we end up with here. And I'll kind of maybe get into that a little bit later on, kind of follow up on this down the road. We're not playing for another month or so. We're going to finish up a current campaign. So we'll see how that goes down the road here. But um, so, yeah, I mean, have fun with it. Break out the mold here. You don't have to use the same races that everybody else does. You don't have to be, the races don't have to be the same action. You don't have to act the same as every other world. Um, have fun with it and make them your own. Um, if you could take any race right now and um, make it into something totally different,
Any
what
species
will be
into something
any
completely
species? Just like make it into something bizarre.
that would be the Asmar. It is my least favorite species.
Sure.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. Like this concept of it's an angel on your planet. Okay, well, explain to me how angels came into the play because I'm pretty sure that that was not a part of my original thought process of what D&D was supposed to be. So it would literally be anything else.
Yeah.
Whatever
I
your
mean,
little heart
but then
desires.
But then you go in the DM's guide and go, oh wait, there's solars and planetars, and those are basically angels. Okay,
Hmm.
and they're humanoid, and they come from a plane of existence that touches on our own. Okay, maybe. I mean, they're no different. They're just different version of tieflings. Tieflings are just fiends. That yeah,
I Yep, I just for whatever reasons, Asmars have always rubbed me the wrong way in a
sure,
fantasy setting, right? Um, Devils and demons, yes, because they're always in all fantasy settings, right? Like you can't
sure,
find me a fantasy setting that didn't have a devil, fiend, or undead in it. But
yeah,
angels and deities, those
yeah.
who archangels and everything about, no, no, it just doesn't fit with what I would like for my world. So that's why when players
Sure.
say they want to play them, yeah, sure, but I don't really have a backstory for you because I don't know where they came from. They don't. They're not in
Okay.
this world. We just have to figure out how they work in my world.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and in terms of like taking an oddball race and making it into something people can play, I've always loved the weirdo modrons. They're the little geometric stuff that come from the planes of order. They're like little square, little ball, little triangle, little pyramid dudes with feet and eyes, and um, they're a very weird thing. They as they're written and as you see them, they don't really work as characters because they're very much just like alien. But who knows? It'd be fun to see what happens if those fell to Earth, to fell to the material plane and had to see what happens.
I
Maybe
mean,
a setting that I'm actually developing.
I could see that forming into almost like a clockwork type automaton,
Yep.
maybe. Like maybe not specifically
Mhm.
automaton or warforge because warforge is kind of rough, but like yeah, I could see it falling into the clockwork type of
Yeah.
some tinkerer
Yep.
somewhere, Nils Pretzel, decided that he wanted to create a whole new species, and there we go.
Yeah.
And now,
Or, oh look, I've tapped into the planes of order, and there's these things that are here. Let's bring them through and see what I can
mhm, mhm,
um make my own little friends. Um, but yeah, so there's actually yeah, I actually have plans for that. So just it
have
is
fun.
a campaign setting I'm trying to develop. I'm just trying to figure a system for it. It's like I don't want to play. I don't want to play another like D&D to level 20 thing because it's so hard to challenge high level players, and we might talk about that in the future here. Um, on variations of existing systems that might work better for a setting that you want, or a type of campaign you want to play. Um, so, if that's something you'd be interested in, leave us a comment and let us know. Because we've got some other shows coming up, obviously, and this content was thanks to our delighted delirium there, our Bernie friend there, kind of gave me the idea for, kind of started me on the idea of talking about species and races and stuff like that. It took a very much divergent turn from what we were originally talking about. But obviously, if there's something you want to hear more about, or you want to talk about, or develop some ideas around, throw us a comment. Throw us a comment on the video itself there, or if you're in the Tumble Tankard, which you can join by following the description in the video below there. Um, you can throw some ideas out there in the chats, or send me a message on Discord. I would be happy to jump in and try something a little different, or some of the things here. Um, and I don't know if he's still here or not, but Millsap, I just want to say I am currently playing in a Dresden Files game. We have had 3 sessions so far. We have switched systems, which is going to work a little better here. So I may talk about that down the road too, here a little bit here, because it's been a lot of fun. I am playing a warden, and the game is based in San Francisco, and it's been a fun time. We're about to wrap up our first adventure, our 4th session, I think, coming up in 2 weeks from this weekend. So anyway, so I may talk a little bit about that. If you're interested and want to hear something on how that kind of thing can work. Um, we haven't really talked about urban fantasy. We've mentioned it, but maybe talking about how that could work in a setting there, and some different settings that follow that could be a topic of future conversation as well.
Sounds like fun.
Um, anything else? Anything else you want to throw out there, Nance?
No, no, I'm good.
Okay.
I had fun. It was a great time today, Jim.
Good, good. Well, hopefully you enjoyed it there. Again, throw us a like on the video there. Let's let some folks know to come out and chat with us, and throw some ideas out at us, what you want to see. And in that case, we'll probably be back in 2 weeks if all goes well. We'll be back here for another episode. And but hope you had fun. Stop by anytime. You're always welcome. Drinks are on us. See you again real soon. Have fun, folks.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.